Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, for taking the time to join us this afternoon for the Q&A with Black graduate students at York event. So we're going to kick things off with a land acknowledgement. Then we'll have a few presentations from university staff members, and then we will move into the question and answer with our graduate student panel. So to start things off, we have our land acknowledgement here. So York University recognizes that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Tkaronto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat. It's now home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. And this territory is subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which is an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. So that is a bit about the land that York University is currently on. And so what we'll do now is we will have our Associate Registrar and Director of Recruitment and Recruitment and Admissions, Keshia Gray, to give a few words to welcome everyone here.
Thank you, Eileen. So, hello and welcome on this snowy Tuesday afternoon, and whether you are still contemplating graduate studies or looking for clarification on application procedures, your attendance here today shows your understanding of the value of graduate education and the opportunities that it opens. So I myself am a proud York alumni, and I completed my Master of Education with a focus in post-secondary education. My career progression in higher ed started when I obtained my master's degree. So until then, I was met with rejection after rejection when applying for management positions. And I was told that I had great experience and that I had a bright future ahead of me, but was lacking this necessary credential. So I did decide to pursue graduate studies, and the day that I graduated with my master's degree, I was offered my first management role. True story. My boss at the time, although she had been the source of my frustration because she wouldn't promote me, and from time to time would say, "How are your studies going?" And I would say, "This thesis is killing me." And she would always just say, "Get it done." And eventually I did. And she was in the audience on the day of my convocation as my loudest cheerleader. And so perhaps I wouldn't have pursued my graduate degree, at least not as early as I did, if I achieved early success. And it would have been to my detriment, because since my first management position, I've taken on many leadership roles that have led me to where I am today and where I will be in the future. Now, I don't want to leave you with thinking graduate studies is just a means to an end. Yes, it will open up professional opportunities for you, but it also develops you as a person. It was during my grad studies or classes that I really learned to effectively argue. I still have close friends that I met in graduate school, and the small classes and in-depth discussions allowed for a greater understanding of the content and what my interests were. You become very proficient in your research skills. And these transferable skills you develop in graduate school will benefit you in all aspects of your life. So today you are going to hear from a panel of students who are going to share their experiences, and you're going to hear from some of my colleagues on how York supports graduate studies and the new things that we're doing to really support the success of Black students pursuing their postgraduate work. And I really look forward to seeing any of your applications and welcoming you to York in the near future. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Keshia. Now, next we will do just a brief introduction to graduate studies at York, eligibility, what each degree is for about 10 minutes. Then we will move into a bit of a spotlight on scholarships, and then we'll do our panel. So I'll just share my screen here with our intro presentation. Here we go. So a quick intro to grad studies at York, and please forgive me if I'm telling you something you already know. I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page about what we offer and eligibility and so on and so on. Oh, okay, that should not be the first slide. Sorry, give me 1 second. Isn't it the case that you're going to have issues with PowerPoint, right, when you need to do your presentation? Okay, let's try that again. Share screen. There we go. Boom. Okay. So the first level of graduate education that we offer at York are master's degrees. So this would be an MA, MSc, MEd, so on and so on. So master's degrees are 1 to 2 years long, and that length is set by a program. And master's degrees come in different formats. So traditionally for an undergraduate degree, you have a set amount of courses you need to take over 4 years, and then you graduate. Graduate school is different. So we do offer some coursework only degrees. That would be where you enter grad school, you do X amount of courses, let's say 8 graduate level courses, and then that's it, you're done, you graduate. But we also have research focused degrees. So our first one here is the major research project format. And this is where you would enter a degree and your requirements would be to do about 6 graduate level courses throughout the degree, but then you would also be doing a small research project. Now, exactly what that project is really depends on your area of interest. You could be in a lab at the university, you could be doing field work, you could be doing interviews, you could be doing an analysis of written work. It really depends. But on your research, you would do a paper of about 40 to 50 pages. Then lastly, we've got thesis-based programs. So you would take even fewer courses, about 4 graduate level courses, and then half of your degree would be research. So similar to the major research project, the format does depend on your degree and your area, your discipline, your subject area. But you would conduct your research and then write a paper of about 100 pages based on your research. Now, some programs offer all 3 formats, and it's completely up to you, your choice of which you'd like to pursue. Others, it's a choice between 1 or 2. They offer a major research project degree or a thesis-based degree, your choice. And then others, they only offer 1 format. So for example, if you wanted to pursue biology, you would have to do a thesis-based degree. So there are some degrees that operate outside of the traditional structure. For example, let's say social work. You would do practicum as part of your degree. So actually going out in the community and doing a placement in a service agency. So that's master's degrees that you can do after your undergrad. Then you could potentially, if you want to, pursue a PhD. PhD, doctoral degree, those terms are interchangeable. And PhD degrees are usually between 4 or 5 years. Sometimes they could take 6 or more, potentially if you're doing it part-time. At York, for almost every program, we do require that you have a master's before you move into a PhD. And most PhD programs are similar formats where you enter the program, you take courses for your first couple of years, then you attempt a comprehensive or a qualifying exam. Once you complete that, then you move on to focus on research, and you would do years and years of research. So you certainly can pursue a PhD, you don't have to. And why choose York for graduate studies? So our 3 main reasons is that we have a diverse community. We're one of the largest faculty of graduate studies in the country with over 6,000 students and over 60 programs. And within some programs, we actually have multiple degrees. So 60 programs, yes, but over 100 degree opportunities in those programs. Second up, we actually have the lowest graduate tuition in Ontario, and most of our programs are funded. So yes, it does cost a certain amount of money to pursue grad school, but as we'll go over in one of the next slides, we also have plenty of money available to support you in pursuing graduate education. And then third up, location. York University is located in the heart of the GTA. 3 campuses across Toronto, our main being Keele campus in North Toronto, but it's a very easy connection from York right to downtown or to a surrounding city like Mississauga, Brampton, Scarborough, Vaughan, Richmond Hill, so on and so on. So who's eligible to pursue a graduate degree? When we're talking about a master's program, you would need an honors undergraduate degree, so a 4-year degree with a GPA or a grade point average of B+ or above. And you may be thinking, oh, we don't use like the letter grade scales, so we'll go over what grading scale equivalencies are in just a minute. And then to pursue a PhD at York, we do require that you have a master's degree, and admissions committees will be looking for you to have a B+ or an A-, depends on the program, but high grades as well. Now, across the spectrum, on various GPA scales, a B+ could be a 77 out of 100, 7.7 on the 10-point scale, 7 on the 9.0 scale that York uses if you're a York undergraduate student, a 3.3 on the 4.0 scale, a 3.33 on the 4.3 scale, and then a 15 or 16 out of 20. And for some scales, we don't exactly use grades. It would be, we require a 2-to-1 degree or a 2nd-class upper division degree. If you have specific questions about this, of course, I can answer them in the Q&A as well. Tuition. So I've got domestic and international tuition listed here. For most graduate programs for a domestic student, so if you're a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, your tuition is just over $5,000 per year. Now, grad school goes year-round, so you're registering all 3 semesters that we offer in a year. So full-time per semester, it's about $1,700. International tuition for most programs is between $18,000 to $20,000 for a full-time student. And those, of course, are both in Canadian dollars. So that's how much it costs. But again, we do have so many supports available for students to help pay for the education, for your education. So funding packages. Full-time students in eligible programs are automatically considered for a funding package, which would help you pay for your schooling. So I've put the standard funding package amounts for each level and category here. So if you are a domestic master's student, so Canadian citizen or permanent resident, you could be considered for a package of $11,000 a year. If you're an international master's student, you're looking at about $21,000 a year potentially. Domestic PhD student, about $24,000 a year. And for PhD students, we actually fund years 1 to 5. That's not super common. Other schools maybe do 3 years or 4 years, but we do 5. And international PhD students are looking at between $35,000 and $36,000 a year. So for funding packages, you are automatically considered for these when you apply. There's no extra application. What you would want to do is reach out to your program of interest and say, do you offer funding packages? If you're an international student, do they offer international funding packages? But there's only a handful of programs that don't. So chances are there is a funding package potentially available for you. If you get a funding package offer, it would come in your offer letter from the university. So it would be like, congratulations, you've got a spot in X program. Here's how much money we are offering to you if you pursue the degree with us. Just keep in mind that funding is only for full-time students. There's no funding for part-time students. Then I have a slide here about scholarships and bursaries, but that's actually, we're gonna have a different, separate, more comprehensive presentation on that. So we'll just go here. If you are interested in coming to York's graduate studies, to a York Grad Studies program for fall or September 2022, applications opened in October and due dates are coming up quickly. So the deadline, our very first deadline is actually December 1st, tomorrow. And that's only one program, psychology. But other program deadlines are December 15th, January 15th, February 15th. So if you're thinking, yeah, I might like to start my degree next September, now is definitely the time to start thinking about and putting together that application. I should also note that the university will actually be closed between December 23rd at 4:30 and January 6th at 8:30 in the morning. So for those, whether it's 10 days, 2 weeks, the university will be closed during that time. You'll still be able to apply online, but staff won't be available to help. So just keep those dates in mind. I've uploaded here a graphic with all of our social media channels. We'd really love it if you could follow us. We've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but most importantly, I'll point to the last one here, our YouTube channel. So we've got our FGS YorkU YouTube channel, and we share videos on here that are super relevant and helpful for admissions. So we have like International Admissions 101, how to write a statement of interest, visas and immigration information. So definitely check out the YouTube channel for more details about application help. I've also included on here my email address, ewatson@yorku.ca. Please feel free to email me at any time. I'm also going to put in the chat my email address, and at any point throughout the process, you're welcome to email me at any time. There we go. Okay, so that is the end of the admissions presentation. So I'll actually turn it over to Yuko to do the scholarship section.
Thanks, Eileen. So I think I'm going to just share the screen here. Hope it works. Are you able to see the screen, please? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Yuko Sorano, and I'm from the Faculty of Graduate Studies. My team works on supporting students and getting scholarship awards, bursary, and other support funds for graduate students. So I'll be taking a few minutes talking about what we offer. So Eileen mentioned that a lot of graduate programs offer graduate funding. So that is separate from the kind of funding and awards that we work on. So apart from the funding, graduate students also might be admitted with additional entrance scholarships. And also after a student joins the graduate program, students have many opportunities to apply for awards and other support funds. So I'll be talking about these entrance awards and then current student support. I would note, similarly to funding packages, most funding opportunities are open to full-time graduate students only. There's a very limited opportunity for part-time students, unfortunately. So entrance awards. So York University has many entrance awards, including some very prestigious awards, such as the Vanier Scholars Program, which is for doctoral students. That is for 4 years. The students are admitted with, and as well as a few other awards at the university level, and many program-based entrance scholarships. So depending on the program that you're applying to, that program may have specific awards available to incoming students. One thing I really should highlight here is that when you apply for admission, just like the funding package, applicants are automatically considered for eligible entrance awards. So there is really no separate process to apply for these additional funding. So your focus should be on preparing the application the best way possible, so that the committee that adjudicates and for the admissions would also be considering the entrance awards as well. Some entrance awards are included with the offer of admission, so they're written in the offer, and others may be awarded to you after you accepted into the graduate program. And there are many more opportunities, even if you are admitted without additional entrance awards. There are many opportunities for current students to apply and receive funds. So I've listed several of those common ones. So one is bursaries. So bursaries are awarded based on financial need. So it's not based on awards and merit and sort of the strength of the application and so forth. The university has a way to assess students' financial circumstances and the level of financial need. So the funding is dispersed according to the level of the need. Also, the university has many internal awards, so typically donor-funded awards based on merit, so the strength of the application, and sometimes also financial need. So some awards are administered by the university, by the Faculty of Graduate Studies when they're open to students in multiple programs, or also individual graduate programs and faculties also offer awards as well. We'll be sending out information about these opportunities to current students in the monthly newsletters. We also have the Academic Excellence Fund, which is quite unique for graduate students to support in their research and scholarly activities. So for example, if you're a graduate student and want to present at an academic conference and wants to pay for the fees or travel to the conference, or if you're conducting research and needs to travel or to need funds to collect data or needs particular equipment to conduct research, the Academic Excellence Fund supports those expenses. Some students also hold research assistantships, which could be part of or in addition to the funding package, typically working on a research project with their supervisor or faculty members who have research grants and earn stipend working on the research project that is usually, or that is related to the student's area of research. And finally, so there are external awards that the university administers, and will be working and supporting the graduate students in applying for and receiving some of the common external awards. So the common ones include the federal level scholarships, the Tri-Council, which includes Vanier and SHRC, that's for social science and humanities research. NSERC is usually for engineering and science research, and CIHR, that's for health research, and CGSM is all over the master level research. So usually in the fall season, students will be encouraged to apply for these scholarships if they're eligible, and then the awards, if they're successful, would begin in the following fall. The province of Ontario has also an external scholarship called the Ontario Graduate Scholarships. So the university has approximately 220 awards per year to be able to give to the graduate students. So we'll be running also the process as well. And we also have, communicate with the students about different external scholarship opportunities as well that might be suitable depending on the research topic and so forth. And finally, I also want to mention that our team and also the graduate programs and the university are committed to supporting students of all backgrounds and circumstances to successfully complete their degree and also really to maximize their outcome. So we'll be really committed in supporting students in their application process, communicating with the students about what they might be eligible for, how they complete applications, how to make their applications strong in applying for major scholarships. So the Faculty of Graduate Studies and individual graduate programs will be offering different support programs in supporting students in that. And we're really excited to see applications with many different kind of research projects proposed and different students' experience and skills that really are unique to the student's body. So for example, we have the Vanier Canada Graduate Scholarship, which is the most prestigious Canadian award offered by the federal government. And we work with the applicants and nominees in completing their application. And the students' really research projects are very diverse, not just in terms of their racial backgrounds, but also the age, experiences, and as a result, the research projects are really also unique and meaningful and engage in the kind of research the students are conducting. So I'm happy to see today Natasha Henry, who is on the panel, who is also one of the Vanier Scholars, successful in winning the Vanier Scholars a few years ago. But I can see every year we're really happy to see the kinds of diverse and strong and social, socially engaged research the students are proposing, and that we're able to help in their process of applying for awards. So we are doing our best to support students in navigating these complex college venues. So we're looking forward to working with you if you decide to come to York University. And finally, I just list my contact here. If you have any questions, you're welcome to also contact me as well for any questions related to scholarships and awards. Thank you. So that will be all my presentation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Yuko. So now we will get started with the panel. And we have such a great group of graduate student and grad representatives for you today. So I will hand it over to Juanita, who is Recruitment and Communications Coordinator in the Schulich School of Business. She will be running our panel, and she's got a great introduction for you right now. So take it away, Juanita.
We have three exciting panelists here to talk to you today. First up, we have Natasha Harry. Natasha is a 2018 Vanier Scholar, is currently completing a PhD in history at York University, researching the enslavement of African people in early Ontario. She is the president of the Ontario Black History Society. Natasha is an award-winning author and award-winning curriculum developer, focusing on Black Canadian experiences. Her publications include Emancipation Day, Celebrating Freedom in Canada, Talking in Canada, a number of youth-focused titles, and several articles that she has submitted to the Canadian Encyclopedia of African Canadian History. Through her various professional, academic, and community roles, Natasha's work is grounded in her commitment to research, collect, preserve, and disseminate the histories of Black Canadians. We also have Neil Livingston, is a father of three beautiful daughters. In 2002, Neil founded Beats Massive, an experimental electric jazz collective, challenging the unconscious themes of their surroundings through musical, visual, and cultural exploration. Neil is a second-year PhD student in the humanities program at York University, working from the premise that everyone has the right to access fresh, healthy food. Neil's major research paper for his master's in environmental studies was entitled The Livingston Tomato Report, 2016, The Philosophical Environmentalist Guide to Justice and the Food System. Neil's current research examines the geopolitical presence of Jamaican immigrants in Toronto and the role of reggae music as a force of culture and rebellion. Neil's outcomes are intended to secure the transfer of intergenerational knowledge through Rastafari. We also have Tino Musfangua. Tino has completed his undergrad degree at York University, studying political science, and earned a Bachelor's of Arts. Most recently, he also completed a master's at Schulich School of Business. Tino is passionate about engaging with different types of people, empowering youth, educating others on matters of health, socially, physically, and mentally. As a student leader, he serves as the Black Excellence Mentor Pure Lead. He's also a graduate student ambassador, Red Zone student ambassador, student financial pure, and residence assistance. In addition to his leadership experience at Schulich and at York, in 2019, Tino co-founded his very first social enterprise, Incorporate Zim, a youth-led social venture that aims to empower and showcase the many different talents that young Zimbabweans have within and beyond their borders. The platform allows for networking, mentorship, and marketing of different business identities. On his spare time, Tino loves listening to podcasts, traveling, and eating different cuisine from around the world. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, as well as to our panelists that are here to answer some exciting questions. So we have three questions that we'd like to start off with. Just 1 minute. So sorry. My computer just glitched on me. I apologize.
I'll cover for you. Tino, Natasha, it's wonderful to be here with you. Natasha, I'm not sure if we've met or not, and any opportunity to have to, chew the breeze with Tino over here is a great experience. So.
Good to catch you, Neil.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you all.
Pleasure to meet you, Natasha, and
Yes,
thank
yes.
you, Anita.
All right, here we go. So first question here, how did you learn about the graduate school and why did you decide to go? Can I get Natasha to answer first?
Okay, I'll go. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I learned about graduate school. I knew that there was graduate school as another step after undergrad, but became interested in attending graduate school when I wanted to do some specific research around curriculum as it relates to the teaching of Black history, as you heard in my introduction. And so I had the opportunity, my undergrad degrees are in history, history and anthropology double major, and then my teaching degree. And so wanted to, again, really get some research done around curriculum. And so the Faculty of Education at York it was a great experience for me. The courses, the instructors, looking at issues of concern that were relevant to my career made York that choice for me to pursue my master's in education with a focus on curriculum. And then I guess I'm a lifelong learner, being an educator. I wanted to really engage in some research for my PhD around the history of enslavement in Canada. And I just felt that, well, if I'm going to engage in this this research, that I could pursue another degree. So I enjoy going to school. It's funny because it's when you graduate, you relieved and you're like, I'm done, and then somehow sometimes you get this yearning to come back. So I decided again to apply for my PhD program in history, and going through the courses helped me to solidify again what I wanted to focus on in terms of my dissertation. And so that's how I came to decide about graduate school. And for me, York was the choice because of my past experience, because of convenience in terms of location. For myself, I'm a wife, a mother, and so all of those things had to be considered in terms of my decision of where to go. And York just, was top of mind for my choice, and I was accepted. And so those are some of the reasons why I decided to go to graduate school and to choose York.
Would anyone else like to answer that question? Please start with or go second, Neil.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So the question, I believe, was how did you learn about graduate school and why did you decide to go? I think in about 1990, 95, 96, when I graduated from Queen's University in Kingston, and I did a degree in geography and specialized in geographic information systems, but I was always sort of interested in the environment. This is a true story. I just clipped a newspaper clipping where at the time, instead of grad events like this, York University would put a little ad in the print newspaper. And so I cut that out and glued it into the back of my journal. And then it just sort of sat there for 15 years, 16 years, 17 years. And then after I'd done some other things with my life, I had an opportunity to go to Costa Rica. And basically I had a dream while lying on the beach with the water at my feet and staring at the sun. And so it was like, not that I wasn't doing the right things with my life, but that I knew I could do more with my life, and that I had some thoughts that had been sitting there and need to be processed. And that's when I dug up that old journal and saw, oh, the York still has the Master's of Environmental Studies program. So so then the same day that my wife told me that she was pregnant with her first child, I told her, oh yeah, well, I'm going to grad school. And so that's when I did my Master's of Environmental Studies at York, because it was the right time to go. I learned about it by doing my research. And then I let the idea stew for when it was the right, or it felt at the right time for me. And then I was, I think Natasha, you spoke a little bit about it, but I was back in the system, once I was back in the flow of things, and I knew I wanted to keep going, but I didn't quite know where. And so I poked around while I worked for the university. I poked around and looked at a lot of different programs. And then one day of all places on Instagram, I think, or, one of the social medias, a TA had just posted like it was just like a picture. It was like there was no words. You couldn't discern anything, but you could just make up the name of an early female MC hip hop artist and I was like, what? You can actually write papers about this in university? Oh my God, we're talking about old school hip hop. There's actually a program where you can study that. And I was like, what is this? And anyways, I discovered that was the Department of Humanities. I was able to, some of the ideas that had been percolating in my master's, I was able to sort of focus in and zero in on a particular aspect of that in the PhD program. So, and then I met Marcus Rice and Leitner. Just, you need the right people. You need to meet the right human beings at the right time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Tino.
Thank you, Anita. It's really good to have you because you're another representative of Schulich here. So I'm really glad to have you. And just really glad to be part of this esteemed panelist with such powerful points, obviously with much more experience than I do. So I recently graduated from my master's at Schulich, master's in business management. And for me, why I did my master's and why I decided to continue education is just, I grew up in a household where, education was prioritized. And my mother always made sure that, school was the first thing and the most important thing. And, she graduated with a master's of business from Rutgers University. So for me, it was a no-brainer to do a master's because, the footsteps that have been laid in front of me. And also just, I think my interaction with people, I think Neil has a strong point, just meeting the right people and engaging with the right people. Just a lot of my professors, they said, if you really want to advance yourself, and I'm also I'm an individual who loves to always, self-improve. And they said, if you want to advance yourself and you want to improve, it's really a no-brainer for you to carry on going to school and expand your skill set. So I started off with political science and then I turned over to business, so into the world of commerce. So always expanding my skill set was something that I really wanted to do. And that's why I decided to do my master's in business management.
Thank you, Tino. Natasha, what was your experience after applying for a program? And do you have any tips for folks applying in the near future?
Mhm. So my experience for both the master's and PhD was a good experience. The staff at York, at Faculty of Graduate Studies, History and Education Department, and other staff were always supportive of me in terms of any little question that I had. I would just find someone to send an email inquiry to, and if they couldn't help me, they would pass it on. But we got a lot of that support in order to go through that application process for supervisors, or bouncing off your ideas in terms of what you want to focus on. Again, faculty, reaching out to different faculty, they were very supportive and gave some time to help me think through some of the things that I was thinking about doing as I began each of those programs. As you get into with graduate studies, and Neil kind of mentioned it, like you could really focus on anything that you want as a topic, and you can get that support in order to help make it work. One of the examples that I like to use from one of the readings, one of the texts from my PhD course in Canadian history, as someone wrote a book, their study was on the history of donuts in Canada. And so I always like to use that example with younger people to say, someone just wanted to research, what was the history of different donut shops in the GTA. And so you can really study anything. And so, just having that support, it's for people to engage in what they're interested in, is an added plus as well. And so as you get into these more specialized focus of study, you have that room to create your course outline, the materials that you want to explore and read, the scholarship that you want to engage with. And so you do have that space. And then because the work that I do is around Black Canadian history, Black history more broadly, the availability of the courses at York University, and the faculty, again, who engage in these areas was there as well. So for me, it's been a good experience. And again, just being able to balance life, right, just with studies and home life, and work, being able to balance all of that And having that level of understanding is really helpful in helping to continue on in my studies.
Thank you so much. And Neil, what about you? What was your experience like when you were applying, and any tips that you'd like to share?
Okay, well, I'll add that from two perspectives. One, I'll add it from the perspective of the first time, starting up the engines again in about 2000, and it took me from, as I said, 2010 when I had the idea to 2013 till I think I was accepted and started of the process, and that was, what did I do with my life for the last 18 years, and so you got to you got to sort of really know yourself and know the program that you're applying to, and very specifically know why you're applying to that program. And so I also speak from somebody who worked in admissions at the university from the other department. And so I don't know if the word counsel isn't quite the word, but I discussed with many people who are trying to apply to grad school, and just so and then navigating the system. So, I will say, you'll only ever get honesty from me as best as I can. You gotta learn to navigate the ecosystem of which is the university administration. Make sure you check all the right boxes, make sure you read all the fine print, read all the categories, so that while you are finding out who you are and what you want to study, that you can move through the process as well as enhance what you really want to study. I was lucky because I've been thinking about something for about 16 years, and I really wanted to dig into the food system, so that really helps. And I would never advise anybody to go through the process just to go through the process. It's you can apply to 10 universities, you can apply to one university, that's up to you. But like, if you're not committed to go through, don't even start. And that's not to say don't start. It means make sure you move forward with intention to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons at the right time that feels good for you and your family or whoever.
Thanks so much, Neil. And Tino, any tips that you'd like to share on what your experience was like applying for grad school?
I smile when I think back to my experience to applying to grad school, especially because of how well it went. And I like that this is a Black grad panel, because for me, one of the biggest thing was to have people like me around, and to have an opportunity to have, people of my color taking up space. And the person who interviewed me was actually, I don't know, she's probably not present, but it was Michelle. And when I got the chance to speak to her, and she told me about, the opportunities that Schulich presents, and, the things that you're capable of, and, just the discussion we had, her knowing me as a person and just offering her piece of advice, made it a no-brainer for me to accept the opportunity to go to Schulich, because I knew that there was support. And I think for me, the most important thing was just, if wherever I found myself, I needed to be known that as a Black student, as a Black person, I would be supported. And just the fact that she reassured me throughout the process is something that meant a lot to me. And I also think just the fact that, to always not to be afraid to ask questions. I think that's definitely the biggest thing, especially when you're making something as big as the decision as choosing which institution you're going to go to, choosing whether you're going to, go for your master's degree, your doctorate. I think it's asking questions and making sure that, anything that you feel you have doubt over, you clarify that. And for me, that was really important. A lot of stuff such as funding, which UCO presented on, and just job opportunities at the end of the day. I think for me, just knowing that, by the time I would finish my master's, I'd be employed was something that was really important. So I think anybody who's thinking about grad situation is definitely asking questions. That's definitely very important.
On that note, there are a few questions that you had submitted prior to, and that's for all the audience members that are here joining us. And we encourage you to use the chat icon that can be found at the very bottom of the screen if that's enabled. I believe that it might be. So feel free to go ahead and ask some questions that you have while these panels are here. I'm gonna steer away from the preset questions that the panelists got, and I'm gonna keep them on their toes and ask them a question about racism. How do you feel York deals with racism? Are there services and supports that you have found as Black graduate students that have been of help? And it might be as simple as having a recruiter like Michelle. Michelle is amazing. Anyone who's applying to the programs that she handles at SHU, like, you're going to have a great time. But Natasha and Neil and Tino, I'd love to hear your answer to this. Natasha, would you like to go first?
I don't have to go first.
Okay.
I can go first because it's really easy to either not answer that question at all or tell the absolute truth about it. So with that, I'm going to leave it to Tino for a moment and then take a moment to ponder it myself.
Mhm.
Thank you, Neil. So for me, I personally haven't had, encounters where I had to personally report a situation that I personally dealt with. But through being a student leader and being someone who interacts with a lot of students, I've had plenty of situations where I'd have to refer students to the correct services as a student ambassador, as a Black Excellence Peer Ambassador, as Black Excellence Peer Lead. So there are lots of students who would come to me and they'll be like, I'm experiencing this situation, and how do I go about it? And for me, I think York, first of all, I want to commend them for the Black Excellence Program, because I think that's something that for the first time as Black students, we actually have, something that we can proudly call ours, and something that's a pilot agenda, and by having workshops. I mean, just this past summer, I was dealing with a lot of students from high school who, was just saying that, we've never had the opportunity, we've never had somebody in our lives who's gone to university. So just the fact that you're allowing us to have these webinars and workshops is really helpful. And just dealing with, the issues of racism, I think one of the biggest resources we had, and during my time at York, was definitely the York Federation of Students, because they really spoke for us. And I remember we had our president, Zinwi. She was Black. She's actually from Cameroon. I'm from Zimbabwe. So she was African. She's my African sister. And, she really put forth the agenda of, being able to have our voices heard. It's really important that our voices are heard and all these experiences come to light. And even just as a Black Peer Excellence ambassador, as well as a student ambassador, one of my main thing was having student discussion panels where a lot of these experiences and interactions, or anybody who's dealt with racism, can have their voices heard. And, just the opportunity of being heard, and just for admissions to hear a lot of the stories that Black students were going through, I think led to the creation of the Black Excellence Program. And so those are the resources I definitely would advise a lot of people who are dealing specifically with racism to be able to reach out to bigger organizations that can speak for them, because as an individual there's only so much pressure and so much you can say, but through organizations such as the Black Excellence Program and through bodies such as the YFS, your voice is much louder.
And I would thank you, Tina. And I just add to that there's UPSA as well, the York University Black Students Association, as well. That is a great resource. And would just echo that. We know that anti-Blackness, you experience it in so many different ways, from what people would call a microaggression to, blatant racism, how you experience it, you may experience it in terms of messages conveyed in classrooms or whatnot. But having the space, as Tino said, where you can talk about that, you can share it, your feelings are validated and acknowledged, they're not dismissed. In many different spaces, there is a lot of online webinars or in-person events in the past, obviously, that have taken place that you always have the opportunity to participate in. And so being able to air those things out definitely is important in terms of formal procedures. I haven't had to report anything of that nature in terms of racism, acts of racism. But there's ways to find that information through some of the agencies and groups that were mentioned. And then I would just say that more broadly over the past few years that there's been faculty members engaged in creating a lot of direct policy around anti-racism, addressing anti-Black racism. And so those things are more recent that should be clearly outlining the ways that the universities will be addressing with this, right? With these issues. And so those are some of the things that are there in place, I think, that could assist with that.
And I'm just got a couple more pennies here, a couple more cents. And so I just want to address maybe three things. One, thank you, fellow panelists, for tackling that question. And Tino, I wanted to reiterate one of the things you said, but I'll provide a little bit of a counterpoint. Yes, I think the reason I'm here and why I support it is because of this Black Excellence program, which I think, and I believe it's quite new. And so you make a really strong point that I think that's one of the best things that I've come out, the people that I've met through it and the connections. We can probably all agree when you're around like-minded people, it really uplifts it, and with the names. So I think that's one really bright, shiny light. And I'm also going to provide a bit of a counterpoint that, although Tino has mentioned that it's great to go through groups and help, because you're not alone. I also, and I consider myself as an advocate for people when I can, and become more so every day. But you also have to stand up for yourself. You know what I mean? Anytime, I think it's very, very important that you need to be able to stand up for yourself throughout the entire I'm standing up for myself on a daily basis right now for my thoughts, my beliefs, my racial identity. And so this doesn't stop. It doesn't go away. It's part of the education system. It's part of our lives. But let tether and use the resources that are there, but also be able to stand on your own and protect yourself, because you may not be just protecting yourself, you may be protecting others or the younger people coming after you. So
thank you all for answering that. I know, very on the spot and challenging question. I think you all answered it really well. And I know it's a very personal opinion. But I thank the attendee who phrased the question, because I do think that it's something that crosses our mind when we're going into spaces as people of color. And it's a fair question to ask, although challenging to answer, but we thank you for bringing that forward. I noticed that Anissa had been so kind enough to bring up 2 different resources that individuals can continue to do research on should they have more questions related to that question, with YUGSA, the York University Graduate Student Association, as well as York recently launching the anti-Black racism framework. So thank you again for that question. I'm curious to know, how long did it take you 3 to settle into York, and how do you feel that the services that you might have used, or the friends that you made, or the connections that you were able to attain were able to help you in settling in, and any future student pointers that you could point out as well?
I guess I can go. I've been at York forever. So while they were saying settled, like, I'm very settled. I'm used to York. I've gone to York since my undergrad, since 1993. And then between my undergrad degree and then my master's degree, there's quite a bit of time had passed. And the new parts of the campus were just recently built and being finished up when I started. But I've always found York to be such a warm place. Just being on campus, it's been warm, and I guess, I don't know if the familiarity adds to that, but I never felt, being in a space that, that I had to think twice about it. And so I feel that I've always felt that collegiality, in whether as a student or working as a TA. I found that, that there's been this warmness and receptiveness there. And so for me, being on campus helps to, and moving around, whether you're going to the cafeteria, the library, or the different amenities, the gym, that you like, that helps to feel that sense of belonging and community, being as part of York. And I've had the opportunity to do that for quite a long time.
I think I'd just like to add to Natasha. I think again, for me, like, I feel like obviously I haven't been as long, I haven't been at York for as long as you have. I just began my 5th year. So I've been here for about 5 years, and I came from Zimbabwe. So I came here and from a completely different environment. And when I came here, I didn't know anybody, so not only was I new to York, I was new to Canada, and just to North America, just the culture, everything was very new to me. But I think York, because of its multicultural, because of how multicultural it is, it was kind of easier for me to settle in, because seeing people from the same region. York has about, I think Nigeria is the second highest, in terms of numbers, international students. So just seeing other people from Africa and seeing people of my skin color, and just seeing familiar face, like familiar, in terms of skin color around me, it put me at ease. And for me, I would also like to say that, it's not as easy as I might say it now, because looking back in hindsight, of course, I might feel like, it was easy. But no, I even remember that, York is like so big. We have over 55,000 students. And that's frightening for anybody who's completely new to a place, and you have to deal with so many people, individuals around. But for me, how I did it and how I, tackled the situation of trying to settle in is, first of all, staying on residence helped. So I like to break things apart, and if there's a big challenge that I want to face, I break it up and have challenge by challenge by challenge. So I was like, I'll first get familiar with residents, where I actually live, the people who I see every day. And I started being more involved in residence. Then eventually that leads to another door where it's like, you're working with a lot of the staff and they say, oh, there's job opportunities on campus. So next up, I started working as a student ambassador on campus. And as student ambassador, you're referring students all over campus, which allows you to meet, campus partners, financial services, your Federation of Students, and the Aboriginal Services, student associations. So this allowed me now to network and meet a whole lot. My network expanded. So I think just one thing which is essential in helping you settle in is definitely, I always encourage students is just to take part. And the good thing about York is you will find your tribe. You will find people who have the same similarities as you. We have over 400 clubs. So, if whatever you're interested in, Neil, like he mentioned, loves rap music, and we share that similarity, we would definitely be in the same club together. Talk about Black contemporary hip hop music, or whether it's football, whether it's MUN. I think there's a space for everybody, and that's what personally I love about York, and that's what allowed me to feel comfortable here.
Yeah, so those were both great answers covering most of the bases. I think I would just add that when you're Juanita, correct? When you asked the question, my first thought, or my main thought, was just, for me in the experience, it's 100% the friends that I've made, and those have been in class, in person, walking to class, away from class, and even now, like online. If there's somebody else out there, and this will turn into some advice, but if there's somebody else out there and you like as the expression used to be, cut of their jib, you know what I mean? You like the way they answer the question, you like the way they think, you don't like the way they think, but it's interesting. You like their shoes, their hat, you like their fashion style, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to just reach out and say, hey, good point. And so now, years later, it's those, and it might only be one or two people, it may be 5 or 6, but those really close relationships that you can build together or through distance, and sort of, as you said, find your group of people and move forward. So just like, don't, put your shoulders up high and go and introduce yourself to people, and you never know what wonderful experience. And that all comes through the Black experience at York University, which is, I think, what we're talking about. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can also see additional resources that have been shared. Thank you again, Lisa, for that. Tino, I want to raise this question to you, and I don't know if Natasha or Neil might have an answer to this as well, but a student here had raised the question, I think they're an international student, and they were curious to know about your experience of coming to York. Was there any culture shock as an international student?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there were so many things I had to get used to. And I think, first of all, just for me, the biggest thing was just, and depending where this international student is from, I'm from Zimbabwe, we have lovely weather there. So coming here and just, first of all, experiencing the cold wrath of Canada was something that really took me away. But also just, just in terms of how liberal it is here in Canada was something that also took me away. In terms of just, when being from Zimbabwe, it's much more rigid, and people tend to follow, the status quo a lot more than they would back home. So like when coming here and just being allowed to be being allowed to be who you want to be was really something which blew me away. I mean, even just one example, which I always speak about with my friends from Africa, is that the issue of homosexuality back home, that's not allowed, So coming here and watching stuff like that, like seeing things like that, is stuff that you're adjusting to, and you're going through a constant process of unlearning and learning new things, which is something that I was grateful for, and which made me love Canada, because I think love Canada, love York, because of how it opens your mind and opens your perspective on so many things. And I think anybody who comes here, you will experience culture shock. It's something that, as even right now, I currently work for York International. So I'm always speaking to international students and hearing their experiences. And culture shock is something that constantly comes up and again. So, and it's something that you will face. And there are resources. And I think the best way to deal with culture shock is speaking to other students. So when I was speaking to others, like, oh my gosh, did you see that? And you kind of know that you're not the only one who's thinking that, is really reassuring. And just being able to have, here at York International, we offer coffee virtual breaks every week, twice a week, where you just come and speak to other international students, and you just speak about what's new, what you're finding interesting. And those discussions helped a lot for me.
Love that open mind, coming in with open perspectives. Neil, I'd love to hear you to answer this question. What is the best way to structure a statement of interest in the application process?
Okay, wow, that's a good one. Well, first I'll say is that every department, every program, I'm sure very clearly, or somewhat obscured, but somewhere very clearly that you can find on their website, each department program is going to have a very specific list of what they're asking for. I believe that your statement of interest in biology is going to be different than like maybe religious studies or philosophy, or so, you first got to know who's asking the question and what question are they asking, and then you need to be able to basically follow like a recipe, A, B, C, D. If they ask for A, B, C, D, E, and F, answer A, B, C, D, E, and F. So there's my just sort of laying the groundwork in the template. Do your research, find what they're asking, find about the program, and then you need to be able to situate yourself and situate your reading, situate what you're actually doing. And so, use headings. Be clear, be honest, be straightforward, realize that this is just an idea. This is, by the time you're in the program, let alone done the program, it's going to look entirely different. But, they really want to look at somebody that can articulate their ideas. What do they have a clear idea of what they're looking for? What are they answering? And then also you want to be able to situate your research and where does it fit? Pay some attention to who else is in this field and what is the research and where does your research fit within what is being asked. So you've got the overall template of what the program's at, and then you've got your own field of research research, field of studies, geography, environmental studies, history, philosophy, they're all going to be chemistry, biology, and they're all going to be different. And then fit yourself into the template that's been laid out for you within your area of study, as well as what the university is asking for. And then just be yourself, and get 1, 2, 3, 500 people to read it and give you feedback. Don't listen to everybody. Most people don't know anything. And then submit it before the deadline, I in probably 2 years, I had one of the smartest people I know edit it and send it back and help me out. So, or just, I've seen some statement of interest that somebody whipped off in an afternoon and it was perfect. You know what I mean? So, again, that just goes back to being honest yourself this is my 2 cents. Once a minute, my nickel, that's a nickel. That's worth more than 2 cents.
Thanks so much, Neil. Yeah, I think that was really good. And I can also see that a link to the graduate calendar has been shared, and there's various different resources that you can find on the graduate calendar, which also shows you events that are coming up to help you with stuff like writing a statement for your grad application. Tasha, would you also like to extend some advice?
Well, I just add quickly, I guess I'd reinforce something that Neil has said earlier, and just in his response, that you should have a sense of what it is that you're interested in. It may change, a bit, but I think in your statement of interest, I think they want to ascertain that you have some sense of purpose, right? And focus with what you want, what you hope to study, what you're interested in, and that you're able to demonstrate some awareness of some of the conversations that's been taking place on that topic. So I think that's all I would like to add, and just that there is, and then as Neil said, for things that I like to get submitted, I like to tap into my friends and people with different perspectives. So if it's education stuff, I'd like to get maybe a non-education person. If it's my history stuff, I don't mind like a history person who's has that awareness of history, but also someone who maybe just a general reader to get their perspectives. So have in your circle of people for feedback a range of perspectives and experiences, because all of that will help to enhance what it is that you're submitting and getting want to get feedback on.
Natasha's giving really good advice. She is giving really good advice. And also, as somebody who said she's gotten very settled in York, I'm going to phrase this question to you. How did you access opportunities you didn't know existed?
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of information going out. So since my experience in 1993, the Excalibur newspaper was something that I would pick up on a weekly basis every Thursday. Pick up the Excalibur newspaper and go through, and you see event listings and what's going on. York is good with all of the postings on the wall, all throughout the hallways. So pay attention to that. Professors would share information as well. And then York is also good with sending out emails in terms of your department or just broadly for the university with opportunities that are available. And so I think maybe here I could just touch a little bit on Yoko had talked about, scholarships and stuff like that. They generally circulate that information on a regular basis, internal and external resources and bursaries. When I was in undergrad, I applied for bursaries and qualified for those, which were really helpful. And so, was able to ask questions in terms of going through those application processes and what was expected. So that was good. For graduate studies, the information is there, and there's always information sessions that are taking place. So I would encourage you again to attend these, these information sessions. Take the time to go through some of the emails that York sends out. Peruse them and see if there's anything interested before you, before you discard them, because there is useful information there. When I decided to apply for scholarships for my dissertation, for my PhD. I attended the information sessions. Yoko was great. I would email her a few times asking questions and was helpful in getting me through that as well. And so, yeah, so I think that the information is there, the resources are there, and that if you just kind of take a moment to navigate that, and don't be afraid to ask questions. There are a lot of people, whether it's, the assistants in the department offices or whatnot, that there are people who can help point you in the direction that you need to gather information.
I think, yeah, that's very, very profound, Natasha, and very helpful in terms of definitely asking questions, reaching out to the right people. I think my philosophy, especially was in undergrad, was, just being on campus even when I didn't have classes and just trying to attend as many events as possible. First of all, it was much cheaper because a lot of these events would offer free food. So that's one thing you definitely get. You're definitely going to get some free food and a lot of the events being offered. But you would see that, a lot of these events that you're going to, you're not only getting the right information, you're meeting the right people, which eventually leads to so many great things. I recall my master's program, making that transition from, York to Schulich was, for me, the jump was way larger than I had expected it to be, because, previously, most of my professors, most of my interactions had been with people from the liberal arts and people, from the departments of liberal arts, political science, international development. So making that transition to, Schulich, where I didn't know anybody besides Michelle, who had interviewed me for my admissions interview, I really needed to be able to network and reach out to people who would help me at Schulich. And I also think just being able to take part as a student leader at York helped, because, again, the good thing about knowing people is that even if someone can't help you, let's say I need something from Neil, if he can't help me out, he can refer me to Natasha, who can help me out. Just being able to, be in touch with those people who could refer me to people who could actually assist me was really helpful. And my advice is also to join, especially as Black students, young Black students, and even older Black students, to join professional networks. For me, I special mention to two networks that I joined, the Black Diplomats Program, which is run by Candice. More than willing to help out anybody who wants to get in touch with them, as well as Icon Talent, which is run by Derek Raphael. And both these professional organizations helped me network with people who would then give me job opportunities once I completed my degree. So definitely joining and just being, especially LinkedIn, I think for me is another really important thing. Just making sure that, when you do meet people and you do build a network, make sure to add them, make sure to stay in touch. It's something that will really pay tenfold.
Thank you so much for answering that. So final question here, and if we could keep it to a minute, I know short and sweet. What are your goals after completing your graduate degree? And for some of you, this might be changing a little bit. It might be more so. What are your goals now that you have completed your graduate degree? In academia, in the real world, what are your goals? We can do popcorn style, whoever wants to go first.
I'll go ahead. Especially since I've just completed my degree. So one of my biggest goals was always to be as diverse as possible. Hopefully I can end up in diplomacy. That's where I really want to find myself, being a diplomat. And for me, someone who is diversified, who has an expanded skill set, whether it's commerce, whether it's, whether it's critical analysis through, my political science degree. I always wanted to expand my skill set. And for now, I think one thing I want to work on is just being able to get global corporate experience here in Canada. And my degree has allowed that for me, because I was actually listening to Keshia, she was speaking, before the talk show, she mentioned that she couldn't get a job until she got her master's degree in management. She couldn't get a management position until she got her master's degree. So I think that's the same position I find myself in, where doors have just opened because of my master's degree, and sky's the limit.
I guess I can go next. For me, I would like to continue in the work that I do. It's multifold. I do quite a bit of things. My work is engaged with Black history, but more closely ensuring that Black students have the opportunity to succeed. And so for me, I think an important step for me is helping to make the pathway clearer and with less obstacles for Black students from elementary through secondary into post-secondary. And so we've seen that there's some headway made because of a lot of persistent agitation by Black parents, Black families, Black students who have voiced their experiences. We've seen now that, after a while, education is being more responsive to that. York has the Black Studies certificate program. There's a lot more things going. So for me, I want to do the work, continue the work that I do in order to make sure these things are in place permanently, so that young Black people can go through and take the path that they want to take in order for their success and to ensure that they thrive. When I finish my dissertation, hopefully in the spring, I'm plugging away. I would like to transition more into academia, again, to use that space as another space for me to continue the work that I do to ensure that Black history is documented and to ensure that young Black students have these opportunities. And I shouldn't say just young Black students, all Black students, because, university, you're coming at different ages and whatnot, that we have these spaces to learn where you feel that personal sense of fulfillment, you're able to thrive, but you're also able to go out and have success in wider society to pursue what it is whatever they want to pursue. And so that's what I would like to continue to do.
Yeah, well, great. So Natasha, you will do all those things, and I'm going to reiterate some of the things in just a simpler way. First, I'm just going to say Tino. So from my time at Queen's, actually, I have quite a number of friends that actually work for Foreign Affairs Canada. So I don't know where, but anyways, let's meet offline, email, because I can hook you up with some real life diplomats and stuff, and they can tell you the real deal there. So I'm sure because and in sort of different words than maybe Natasha, it's like I'd like to say, I'm not going to wait till I graduate to have the goals. And that goal question is such an important question. My mentor, who really, Dr. Henry Moeller, who really encouraged me to apply to this program, that was his thing. What are you going to do? What's your whole point? And now that I'm going through the process, so it's a very important question, but I'm just going to say, I'm not going to wait till I'm done. And, I'm just, I want to just help build a better world for, my kids and, the same people that Natasha was speaking about. And I know that Tino cares about. I think as Black scholars, as excellent Black scholars, it's like our duty, our right, our privilege to be able to pass that on and be leaders, be helpers, be supporters for that generation, because they need it. So
what a powerful way to end the panel discussion. I literally have chills. That was very beautiful. Thank you for all that you have offered these attendees and also what I've learned today. Big thank you, Natasha Henry, Neil Livingston, as well as Tino Musfangua. If you folks want to put down your social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever you feel comfortable sharing in the chat, make sure you click it for everyone. I'm sure that these amazing attendees would love to continue this conversation offline, but I'd like to welcome back Eileen Watson to close out today's session.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much, everyone. I'm so glad that we recorded this event so that more folks will be able to view it on YouTube. the only reason, or the only way you would have got the link to sign up is if you had signed up via Zoom. So we'll send out the recording as soon as we've got it rendered and up on YouTube. And I'll include some of the resources that Ines has put in the chat for you in the email as well. And Tino and Natasha, we've got various social media tags being shared. We've got Twitter from Natasha. We've got LinkedIn from Tino here. So if you want to head to the chat, we've got Neil's LinkedIn as well being shared. So if you'd like to connect with them there, please feel free to do so. So thank you to all the participants. Thank you to everyone who attended today's event. We hope you learned something and enjoyed your time with us. And thank you to all staff and students who were able to participate in the panel and doing presentations. We really, really appreciate it. So thank you, everyone, so much. And we'll end it here. Have a good rest of your day, and we hope to see you at York soon.